One of the best and least talked about aspects of games on old consoles is people are still writing them. New games get released on physical formats for the likes of the Amiga, Game Boy, SNES and Mega Drive all the time. History's greatest console is of course in on the act, and it does it in comprehensive fashion. Almost every year for the last 2 decades, preservation site of legend SMSPower has run an open competition for music, hacks of existing games, and most interestingly to us, actual new games. Recent innovations in software support, like Xverx's DevKit SMS, makes this as accessible as programming for a 30-year-old cartridge-based system is ever likely to be. We have 14 entries for the coding competition this year, of which 12 are new Master System compatible games of varying completeness. Experience suggests at least something here will get a physical release, just as last year's winner Stygian Quest did. Everyone gets a vote on the winner, and everything you're about to see can be downloaded free to try in an emulator. What follows is my prediction of the finishing order from 12 to 1, based on giving these games the respect they deserve, which is to say, being played on the official greatest console. But first, those 2 non-gaming entries. Star by Xverx. Impossibly small, this little animation fits into 128 bytes, although unfortunately it doesn't fit into my SMS1, which doesn't seem to run it. Others, including SMS legend Kagasan, seem to have had better luck. But in lieu of this, official footage is behind me right now. No game here of course, but an impressive demonstration of capabilities from SMS DevKit writer Xverx, who through that will have a hand in many of these games, including my winner. Tables Have Turned by Joe. Tables Have Turned by Joe is a good old-fashioned demo in the demonstration sense. The purpose of these, which used to be a lot more common on the old computers, is simply to do the most impressive effects on a machine, but without using any pre-stored video. It's all calculated on the fly by the system. Joe's written this whole thing in assembly, and they'd have to in order to get this out of a Master System. It's doing tricks like swapping the entire colour palette every 32 lines to get more than you could theoretically do on the machine. And that's about the only bit of the description I'm close to understanding here. Again, not a playable entity, but as an indication of what an SMS can put out, my hat is very much off. But now games, starting with the Chess Rooks puzzle by RayTube Games. From RayTube, which I suddenly hope is their real name, the Chess Rooks is an implementation of a classic puzzle. You have a chessboard of a size and the same number of rooks. You need to arrange these rooks so none can capture any of the others. The slight gimmick this game has is, if you do a solution it considers easy, then it will tell you to try again, claiming to do this using AI, which is probably more accurate than anything commercially calling itself AI at this point. There is only one problem with this game, and it's not RayTube's fault. All ways to solve this puzzle are easy, as far as I can see. Rooks move horizontally and vertically, so the only possible solution is simply to put each piece on a row and column you haven't used yet. There are patterns that look harder or easier, sure, but fundamentally there are as many rows and columns left as you have pieces, and always a correct answer if you just look. It's a perfectly good implementation of a puzzle that I can't see confusing anyone over 6 and then only once. The author says they're going to expand this with added functionality and new levels, and I can see, given it fells you instantly for a wrong answer, that using some of the other chess pieces could well form a much more interesting game here. What if some of them were pawns and queens, for example? The author claims this is a traditional puzzle, but at least under this name I'm not seeing much evidence of this, which is good because it means they can expand it. There's nothing wrong with this, it's implementing a very simple concept perfectly, but I'd love to see the hard mode. Attention to Detail by RayTube Games. Also from Ray is an original game, and as much as anything that's why this is getting the nod over its sister. The board is a set pattern, but briefly you are shown it with some wrong pieces in place. Your job is simply to identify one of the ones that was wrong. Do so, and you will get a shorter view of the incorrect version, and repeat until you get one wrong, or you have got enough in each colour to win, seen by the bar on your right. Brutally, one mistake is game over, but it kinda has to be, since requiring you to spot only one anomaly makes this a very easy game. Until it isn't. Again, the biggest failing of this is how slight it is. There's not a lot to make you want to play it more than a couple of times as is, but like the Chess Rooks, Ray suggests it will evolve massively, and indeed has been active on SMSPower's forum discussing plans, etc. It strikes me that these two evolved, plus maybe a few more, could make a very nice variety puzzle cart. The games are easily small enough for many to fit after all. If that's the destination here, I look forward to it immensely. These are both technically solid and well thought out games, just not super deep yet. Ultimate Dungeon Escape by Revo. Sometimes it takes a village. At some point 5 people are involved in this one across the various things you need to do to make a game. Ultimate Dungeon Escape though is mostly by Revo, one of the long-term champions of SMS homebrew, and the reason you can get many previous games in this competition on a real cart with a box. This one won't rise to those heights, nor do I suspect Revo means it to. It's a classic but simple dungeon crawler where half the problem is figuring out the best route, as the battles are done by dice roll and some items move locations between plays. You'll need to learn where the chests are that have the good stuff, and where the doors will open once appropriate enemies have been defeated. The elephant in the room for UDE is pretty obvious: last year's winner Stygian Quest. This obviously isn't as developed as that all-time classic, but it also uses luck a little too much, battles being random for a start. While Stygian Quest was all about working out the right route and use of the items, this is simpler and more random. I can't repeat my best run most of the time despite making exactly the same control inputs. That said, nothing is bad here, it's just underdeveloped. It looks great, despite being capable of running on an SG-1000 with slightly worse colours. The controls are just fine where there are controls. There's the basis of something really fun here. Yokai Ninja by Ichiko Bankai and Rushjet. Straight on to another superstar of the SMS homebrew scene. Ichigo runs publisher Two Minds, who brought us box copies of Flight of the Pigorus, alongside several others, including Bubble Bobble clone and former competition winner Baraburu. I mention that because we're again tackling an arcade game port with Yokai Ninja, which is transparently Pang. Pang is basically Asteroids, Walking Edition. To exit the level, you need to destroy all the balloons, which, like real balloons, split in half when hit into increasingly smaller sizes before eventually disappearing. Contact is, of course, fatal. Fundamentally, this works. This is Pang. It controls well, the graphics and sound are spot on, if not arcade accurate due to the different setting for this game. It's this far down the order only because it so far had about 2 weeks development, and that fact is relatively obvious. Most notably that firing one of the bigger weapons, like the traditional harpoon, slows the whole thing down dramatically. I'm sure that's fixable though, and developed, there's no reason to think this is less of a box release potential than last year's Bomb Jack, or indeed their own previous works. Yaoi by Dark. Like the previous game, Yaoi is written for the previous generation of Sega machine, the SG-1000 console and SC-3000 computer. It does, though, run absolutely fine on a Master System, as you can see here, but unlike Dungeon, does not take advantage of that fact. As far as I can tell, it's an original puzzle game, but Yaoi takes in elements of Boulder Dash and Sokoban, among others. The plan here is to collect all the coins in the level without getting crushed. Nothing here happens in real time, it's all steps. Dots and coins prevent the arrows from falling. You can push one arrow into a free space, but won't be able to move more than one. While an arrow directly above you won't crush you, one falling one or more spaces onto you will. And if that sounds difficult, it is. As a full game, Yaoi would probably have a tutorial, but here it puts you straight into a large level of 50 odd coins, which is already employing most of the tricks of these games. 2 of the 10 levels are apparently completable, but I've no idea because I can't complete this one. It's an impressive design though. I've not played a puzzle game exactly like this, and you can see there will be a route through this level once I figure out its tricks. Even on my second go, which is most of the footage you can see, I've got some idea of how to tidy up rows of multiple hazards and handle the precedence of making some arrows fall when I'm ready for them. For a game running a generation behind the others, it's technically good too, although no music and minimal sound at present. The only thing I have close to a criticism so far is, if you softlock yourself by getting trapped rather than killed, the only way out appears to be to reset the machine, although it's not the game's fault my reset button doesn't work. We are already well past the point in this rundown where everything is worth playing. A finished Yowie would be a sensational little puzzle game on any format. That it's a new one for a machine well past 40 is astonishing. Eggy Chuck by Will Britton. Will's got form here. Their entries to this competition often take the form of, shall we say, legally distinct versions of other games you might find faintly familiar. And so here, Eggy Chuck, which is to those of a certain age very transparently a port of BBC and Spectrum favourite Chucky Egg. Will's a skilled coder, but he probably shouldn't go into espionage. As always though, it's a good one. In Chucky Eggy Chuck Chuck, you simply need to collect all the eggs, which finishes the level. In doing so, avoid the roaming enemies who increase in numbers. It's got shades of a flicky without the escorting, and in that respect it sets the template for a couple of decades of collect-em-up Euro platformers. These things thus live or die on their controls, and assuming you download at least 0.4 rather than the original submission, Will's come up trumps. The first version was sticky with ladders, vital to traversal in this game, but now he's nailed it. Eggy is rarely a Twitch-level reaction test, but you need to work up a flow to get through the levels, and you can absolutely do that here. It's easily as good as any previous version of the game, bouncing off other platforms to do jump tricks being an entertaining highlight. As always, this means it does inherit the parent's flaws, which prevents a truly competition-winning entry here for me. Chucky is a simple game without much variety. The nature of the AI means there's sometimes an element of luck, and of course this version isn't quite finished, with some levels being repeats. This, though, is proof the SMS can live with the computers when it wants to, and given the original version was just 6 days' work for Will, proof that SMS development is something any coder can take on. If you have fond memories of the original, or just want a lovely little easy-to-understand game, get it in your machine. Iron Man by Old Pirate. I played Flash on the Master System for March's Yesterscene, and I did not expect to see another superhero game virtually no one has played again so soon. In this case, it's Old Pirate deciding to try and bring his already existent Mega Drive platformer to history's greatest. I'm on board immediately though. Any game that inadvertently or otherwise attempts to do a takeoff of SimCity on SNES's intro is going to win me over. And Iron Man's flight across the city is a lovely thing with equally lovely music. As is the game from first impressions, it's a fairly generic platformer and enemy battle on the surface. Iron Man has his gun but not his flight, despite the impression from the intro. It's lovely looking. A static screenshot could absolutely sell this to you as a commercial game from the Master System's heyday. It compares incredibly well to the author's own Mega Drive version. In fact, they themselves consider this technically better, especially in terms of the scrolling. Music too is rather excellent. Listen to this though and tell me it's not just an admittedly very nice recreation of the Mortal Kombat 1 track loop. It's not just me hearing this, right? Predictably, it doesn't quite play as well. Iron has no inertia, so movement can be a little stilted, and the level design is such that it's not always obvious which is a thing you can stand on and which is a thing you will fall through. Nitpicks mind, this would be a lovely thing to work through, or will be once I figure out the puzzle of this jump. I checked the official video and guess exactly where it cuts off. It's a testament to this though that I'm absolutely going to do that, possibly after asking on the SMS forum just what the bloody hell you do. Pac-Man by Lack of Track. The inconsistent popularity among regions of the SMS has resulted in a few holes in its lineup, and one of those is it never got a version of Pac-Man. Moby Games lists over 30 conversions, including literally everything you can possibly think about that was around in the 80s. The 2600, the NES, the Game Boy, and even the associated Game Gear. But somehow there was never an official version for the Master System. I might be inclined to blame America, most of the Pac-Man conversions seem to have originated there. But the later Pac-Mania did get an SMS conversion via Tech Magic, a Californian company. Not that they bothered releasing it there. It's the Game Gear one that's relevant though, as that machine is practically identical. After all, it's a perfectly nice conversion that suffers from the same problem a few do. It scrolls. Scrolling does not work with Pac-Man as soon as you even get a remote understanding of the game. The 4 ghosts have 4 distinct AI behaviours, and they're fairly deep. As soon as it scrolls, you cannot keep track of that. Which is to say, we may have waited 34 years after the Game Gear release, and 45, after the arcade for its bigger brother to get a port, but Lack of Track's nailed it. The entire board is on screen, at once, in its intended aspect ratio, unlike the slightly unfairly maligned VCS version. The author says it should feel like the arcade version, and I would have to agree. I can't claim to be a full expert in the Ghost AI, but they do exactly what I expect them to do. The most obvious example of this being that the red ghost, Blinky, is the one that most directly pursues you, as he should. Pac-Man is of course a relatively simple game, and it's that which is keeping it off the absolute zenith of this list. Ultimately, there are things here that, well into the 21st century, you are probably going to want to play for longer. We've all played our share of Pac-Man for, statistically speaking, our entire natural lives after all. So let me be clear. Yes, this is not top of the list. I don't suspect it will win the coding competition. But this is an absolutely top-notch conversion of Pac-Man, and since both the Game Boy and Game Gear could get away with selling not perfect conversions of the game around 1990, I contend if this had been the Master System version, in a box, at full price, it would have been better than both of them. It's better than both of them now. If you feel the need to play Pac-Man on an SMS, this is perfect. Ants by Joppyfer. You'll have seen Joppy last year with a pair of excellent sound chip test applications, but it's been 4 years since they've entered a game, a very nice take on a Windows classic. Here again they've dipped into their past with a remake of a card-based game called Ants, originally seen as a demo game for a development environment called Gemtree Peter. You've probably not heard of this if you're English. It's Czech in origin, but for the English-speaking crowd, if you think click and play, you're not far off. Said demo game is on archive.org, where you discover, if you weren't already ahead of me, this is a development of a game from within a couple of the Might and Magic games, and which later got a standalone release. Gwent, but 20 years earlier, basically. As a game, it's relatively simple and faithfully reproduced in this Master System version. You want your tower to grow to 100 blocks. To do this, you play from your stock of cards, all of which cost bricks, gems, or military recruits. The cards give you extra of one or more of these 3, grow your tower or its sacrificial protecting fence, attack any or all of the opposition's things, or in rare and welcome cases, give you additional production of one of the above resources. Joppy can't take credit for the game design, of course, but it's well balanced, and I was absolutely understanding how it all fit together by the end of my first game. There are full-price card games on systems of this type that don't have this depth. Joppy's visual makeover does the job too. It's hard to see how an interface could be better for this. The 2-player mode especially would make a huge difference, especially as the CPU is not super great. It took a lot more effort to code this than was originally expended to design it in Peter and Play, and it's been pulled off magnificently. I can imagine this in a box release with just a few enhancements. Gummy Medieval Defender by Zylog Z80A. We've already seen other formats can be a rich source of new games for any hardware, and so is the case here. Gummy comes to us from the MSX. The competition rules allow this so long as the engineering is for the SMS and it's not just the source code and graphics. Gummy has about 3 pages of improvements listed on its forum thread, so that's safe. The game itself is one of tower defense, but in the interactive sense. Most levels see you grabbing boulders and throwing them at the invaders scaling the walls. Sometimes there are structures in the way of them, which can work for or against you depending on where everyone is at the time. Even at this point, it's a fun, frantic little game you'd not have begrudged as a Spectrum budget release back in the day at all. And then it starts adding things. Even as far as I've got, there's the boss levels with an enormous sprite being thrown around. These are a little tricky with regards to their collision detection. The boss must be hit super accurately or it won't work, to the point I had to check the official YouTube video to make sure I was doing the right thing. Then you move on. The second set of levels is set at night and uses both a muted colour palette and occasional lightning incredibly effectively to make it feel like a new thing. Then the arrows appear and suddenly you have yourself an arcade game. The arrows of course do have the disadvantage that just sometimes they make a level impossible with their timing, but I died many, many more times to my own idiocy. It's helped by the liberal availability of extra life pickups, which also means it's a lot less frustrating having to play from the beginning every time. The whole run becomes an exercise in setting yourself up for the difficult bits. They might have started from a decent base, but this is a strong entry into the SMS homebrew scene. Lunar Skirmish by Eris. Eris is a 4-time winner of this competition already, most recently in 2022 with a fabulous conversion of arcade classic Green Beret. So it's absolutely no surprise to see this towards the top of the list. The only surprise is I've not put it first. Stay tuned. Horizontal Shooter is a brave class of game on the SMS. Compile, with their R-Type conversion, and Sagaya, aka Darius, are 2 of the best commercial games on the system. But Lunar has the potential to match them. The class difference is clear immediately with the fully realised intro. The game is inspired by the renovation classic Gyarez, which I happen to have on the Evercade, and having reacquainted myself with that I can see it. The style is similar, albeit renovation using the 16-bit machine and the fact they're a commercial house to do tricks that this isn't. I'm probably not the man to perform a full evaluation, not least because I'm so hideous at shooters I've yet to see the end of the first stage, let alone the other 6 or so already included. I'll keep trying though. The enemy variety is already there, and I like how, throughout as far as I can get, it's introducing challenges on their own before eventually combining them. Just to compound the level of this game, on SMSPower you can already download an inlay, manual, and even a cart label if you happen to have one of those AliExpress special flash carts hanging around and want to add this to your library. So let's try and nitpick. Well, I wouldn't mind it being a little quicker, even once you get the speed up boost. And in the asteroid field type sections, I sometimes had trouble figuring out which of the ones I was going to hit and which were pure background. You'd like a live score feedback too, but as Enrique himself points out, he simply didn't have the tiles available to do so, as they're all being used to do game. Nonetheless, while other games this year have the potential to be good box titles in one way or another with some development, this you could show people right now and claim it was a 1990 release without any danger of debate. When finished, it's probably the SMS's next great game. But there's something I enjoyed more. Jumping Jackson by Slogra. You might know this game, and if so, you are deep in the Amiga lore. Jumping Jackson is a 1990 Amiga puzzler from Infogram. Rock music is dead, killed by the unstoppable force of classical, apparently. Jack's not standing for this, and so into 16 levels of puzzle action we go, looking for Elvis Presley's first ever record, apparently Patient Zero for rock and roll. In order to do so, he'll need to find all the records in each level, place them on the appropriate coloured turntable, and get the hell out of Memphis. But the dastardly classical musicians have cunningly concealed them under coloured floor tiles, and they will only be revealed by getting an area of them to the same colour, since they change in a sequence indicated by the bottom left of the screen. Yes, it's one of those puzzle games. This is more than most though. A colour block changing puzzle game was enough for at least a budget release back then. and this is a good one of those. Jack controls perfectly well, and the graphics are clear and bright with the play area zoomed out easily enough to see what's going on. The need to carry records around and get to the exit would be something of a pointless add-on, especially as Tal's lock once used, but the final string in Jack's bow is that the classical instruments are not happy about this state of affairs, and they're after him. I can't tell if they know where you are, certainly sometimes they make mistakes, but they will hunt you down and they are the only failure state in the game. Commendably, there's no timer involved in the process, so like all good puzzle games, you are free to have a think about the situation. There is a limited number of lives, but since there's an arcade element to this and it's relatively short at 16 levels, half the size of the Amiga one, that's absolutely fine. You do have the ability to block enemies with the tape you're given at the start of the level. There's little even to nitpick here other than some flickering on the enemy sprites. If this was the conversion to SMS in 1990 alongside the Amiga original, it'd be remembered as one of the better puzzle games, especially if those extra levels could be squeezed in using the remaining 80 kilobytes or so there would be on a 2 megabit cartridge. It demands that though. The graphics will take up space, but special mention to the music, a strength on the Amiga original, which is rejigged for SMS and done so superbly with at least 5 tunes included. I did have to think if this or Lunar was going to win, but ultimately, this being a complete feeling game, a great conversion of a 16-bit title, and its sheer technical prowess from someone who has not entered the competition before, wins it for me. If we had a Best Newcomer award, it'd already be through their mailbox. And for me, I'm going to say this is the best thing here. Or is it? You tell me. As I said, you could download everything I've just played for free from SMSPower.org, and my vote isn't worth any more than yours. And if you don't have the ability to do that, maybe you can get to Swindon. I'll be at Retrofest at the end of May with the very Master System you've just been watching, and every single one of these games for you to try out, along with many from previous years. Come say hi and we'll continue the argument in person, or indeed in the comments below. As someone once said, we'll see you on the Sega side. Good night.